Good evening, everybody, and a very warm welcome to our Pacific Science Center evening. It is the Pacific Science Center and Seattle Kraken Climate Pledge Arena and Amazon all coming together tonight to bring you the science of sports and entertainment. My name is Ross Fletcher, and tonight we are bringing you the science behind Climate Pledge Arena, how it will become the world's first net zero carbon certified arena. We are already really looking forward to Seattle Kraken dropping the puck in 2021 at the arena, as well as Seattle Storm WNBA team, and plenty of fantastic musical events and entertainment events to come. So how do you get the science behind sustainability? We'll be introducing our panel in just a few moments' time. An esteemed panel they are too. Now, this is the first time for us with the science of sports and entertainment going virtual. We've had this partnership between PacSci and Seattle Kraken for around the last 18 months or so. But tonight, a different dynamic, of course, during COVID-19. And fair warning to you, we have, between myself and the four panelists, multiple children and several dogs. So anything could happen. And in a way, we kind of like it like that, don't we? Well, tonight's program is presented by our hometown airline, Alaska Airlines. Alaska Airlines is a longtime supporter of PacSci and has been instrumental in our efforts to ensure curiosity never closes. We're excited to have their support tonight as they've teamed up with Seattle Kraken as the official airline and a founding partner of the hockey team as well. Alaska Airlines has shared with us this brief video. Thank you very much indeed to our partners at Alaska Airlines. So good evening, everybody. Joining us on our live YouTube stream tonight. In a moment, we'll give you a little taste of what is to come and how you can get involved. We're going to impart so much information on you between now and around 8:30. But as always, we would love it for you to get involved as well. You'll be able to leave your comments and questions on our chat line on the stream tonight. So without further ado, I think it's time to introduce our panel. As I mentioned, four people on the panel tonight. And normally I would go through, if we were down at the PacSci, and give everybody's introduction for them. But I thought living in this virtual world, it'd be nicer because you can see them up close and personal for them to introduce themselves. Our first panelist tonight, Jason McLennan, chairman of the International Living Future Institute, a man who's been called the Steve Jobs of the green building industry and one of the world's most influential individuals in the field of architecture and green building. Jason, it's great to have you on. Just tell us a little bit more about yourself, your work, and how you got involved with Climate Pledge Arena.
Sure, Ross. Good to be here. Hello, everyone. I'm a troublemaker for good, as I like to call it. I'm an architect and a planner, author, father, and my focus has always been on green building and how we can redesign our cities and our buildings to be better for the world, better for people's health, better for the environment. But I have to tell you, in addition, I'm a big hockey fan. And I'm just so delighted to be able to be with you talking about the Climate Pledge Arena and everything we're going to do on the ice and off the ice. And maybe the last thing I'll mention, just to set the stage here, is that I'm also the proud son of Sandra McLennan, my mother, and it's her birthday today. So this is one of those crazy times where I get to say hi, Mom, on camera, and kick this off on a personal note. So great to be here with you guys.
Fantastic, Jason, and happy birthday, Sandra. I hope you sent her a present as well via Amazon, probably something like that. Thanks very much, Jason. Also joining us tonight from Amazon is Julia Race, Senior Program Manager for Sustainable Buildings. Julia, it's great to have you on. Tell us all about the work that you do.
Hi, yeah, thank you, Ross, and thank you everybody for being here. Really happy to be part of this exciting event. I'm a planner also like Jason and a sustainable designer. And so if Jason says he's a troublemaker, I might call myself a strategic agitator. I'm a longtime geek for sustainability and a lover of science and nature. And that's why I do this work. And I head up our sustainable buildings program at Amazon, and really excited about the Climate Pledge Arena and everything this group is doing and here to talk about today.
Fantastic. Julia, thanks very much for being with us this evening. Moving on now to Climate Pledge Arena itself. It is a fabulous project. Somebody has the joyous job of marketing it all. That would fall to Rosie Selle, the VP of Marketing for Climate Pledge Arena. Hi, Rosie. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Ross. Thank you so much. And I want to echo Julia's comments about we're so excited that everyone here has joined on to kind of learn a little bit more about what we're doing here in Uptown and at Seattle Center at the arena. Like I said, Rosie Selle, VP of Marketing for Climate Pledge Arena. My responsibilities lie in marketing the building as a place for the top live entertainment to come and play, as well as the shows themselves. So I follow all of our marketing efforts on the non-team side.
Fabulous stuff. Okay, and we have mentioned Seattle Kraken a little earlier. They will take to the ice in Climate Pledge Arena in fall of 2021. Away from the ice itself, there is a huge effort regarding sustainability and transportation to get greener modes of transport around the arena. And Rob Johnson is VP of Sustainability and Transportation for the Kraken, leading that effort. Rob, thanks for being with us. Go on, give us the whole 9 yards about you and yours.
A real pleasure, Ross. I'm probably going to be the one who's the most likely to have kids jump on the screen tonight. I'm the dad of twin 9-year-old girls and have a almost 7-year-old who's just a couple of years behind them. I care deeply about this issue. Got involved in my first volunteering as a 12-year-old for Earth Day 20 back in 1990. And never really lost my passion for sustainability as a kid who grew up here with the access to the mountains and the water, and watching how important it is to preserve that has become a lifelong passion of mine. I come to this with a strong emphasis on the built environment. I'm an urban planner by training with a focus on transportation. So I'm one of the lucky few who's been able to use his degree for good. I believe it or not, wrote a thesis on parking management, Ross. So I'm super excited to talk to you about all the parking nerdery that we're doing inside the building. But as you'll see later, transportation has a huge impact on environmental sustainability, not just for this building, but for our region as a whole. And excited to dig in with you about some of those details later on tonight.
And I believe, Rob, as well, if I asked you, you could give me every bus route and network from downtown Seattle to wherever you need to go. Is that right?
It's pretty close. I can get you pretty close, buddy. Yeah.
That'll work. Great stuff. By the way, don't any of you put on questions on the stream about wanting directions from Rob. We are actually kind of slightly joking. So with that in mind, we would love for you to all get involved tonight. We are going to try and be as interactive as possible. For the first kind of half an hour or so, we'll throw it around from our panelists in turn, starting with Jason. But from there, we would love your questions. As easy as typing them into the stream you're watching now. There will be a good old section of Q&A at the end of our little chat between myself and our 4 panelists. So please do, at any point, put your questions into the stream and we will try and pick them out before the end of our evening here. So great to have you along for the Science of Sports and Entertainment, this partnership between Pacific Science Center and Seattle Kraken, along with Climate Pledge Arena and tonight Amazon, who of course named very recently Climate Pledge Arena itself. So let's start again with our panelists. You've heard their introductions. Let's dig a little bit more now into the detail behind Climate Pledge Arena, starting with Jason McLennan. Jason, as I mentioned, you've been called the Steve Jobs of the green building industry. Just give us an overview. What is green building and how did you get involved?
Well, I've been involved in green building for pretty much my entire career. The idea when we build anything is to try to limit or reduce the amount of negative impact we're having on the world. And in fact, what we're realizing now is we actually have to do more than that. We have to actually heal and regenerate the planet. And we know how to do these things, which is the great thing. And we'll talk about some of these ideas in a minute. But we need to be agents of regeneration starting now.
And how do you go about that? How do you become an agent of regeneration?
Well, lots of hard work, and it's always a team effort. And I think that really underscores the process that we used on this project. You know, I had an opportunity to get involved when there was already an amazing team in place of architects and engineers and people like Rob that's on this panel, really thinking through a whole host of issues, from transportation to how to, reuse this historic, beautiful building. And I was brought on to really help develop a strategy to even go further and partner with Amazon and their amazing people there to really say, well, if we're going to go big and really make a statement, what do we need to do? And that's what this whole team came and rallied together around. How do we really make a difference and not only provide the world's best venue for sports and entertainment, but one where the ethos and values of this community, this very special place, is expressed in the, in this arena. And, what a process it's been.
Yeah. And you're still, of course, pushing through with that as the arena is constructed day by day and looking terrific as it is. And we've seen huge organizations become more planet conscious in these last few years. Only a week or so ago, REI just announced the sale of their new HQ. They're not moving in as they embrace more of a work from home culture. You look at Amazon and last year's climate pledge and their commitment to sustainable buildings. And I know we'll delve into that more with Julia in a few minutes' time. But what is the overall importance of climate action in building construction?
Yeah, well, this couldn't be a more important topic, actually. And that's why this issue is front and center, named on the building. It's difficult in the time we're in here. We're having this meeting via Zoom, and the talk of COVID is all consuming, and appropriately so. This is a terribly disruptive moment for the world with all sorts of challenges. But the problem is, looming behind it is actually an even bigger issue, which is climate change. And the amount of disruption that climate change is going to cause to human civilization, frankly, but to all of life is just enormous, and it's not talked about enough. And so the idea of using a venue there where thousands and thousands of people will come and begin to highlight not only the challenges, which is needed, but more importantly, positive solutions to say, we got this if we want to. We have the know-how to reverse and draw down climate emissions. And so I'm really hopeful when there, a project like this emerges, and this is a game changer.
Yeah, we talk about a climate crisis. How does the sustainability effort with Climate Pledge Arena kind of play into doing its part to become a sustainable part of our city?
Well, I'm again just thrilled that we're talking about this, and given that this is a focus on science in sports, I really do encourage the listeners to really get up to speed with the science, because you almost never see the level of worldwide alignment around an issue. There's almost no credible dissent anymore about the fact that climate change is real. It was caused by us. It is caused by us, and we need to do something about it. And it's unfortunate that that's not been the focus. Now, having said that, there's all sorts of things that we can do, and it's not window dressing. And here you have a building type, an arena, which is one of the most energy intensive projects that you can find. And we are actually going to be zero carbon, and we are going to be doing a whole host of things. And we're seeing as this slide shows, all sorts of innovation. Right here in Seattle, we have the world's greenest office building, the Bullitt Center, which is a living building project that has really changed people's perceptions of the office space. We've got exciting developments in electric cars and in wind energy and offsite renewables, and the toolkit is growing. And we're going to be applying, and we'll talk more in this segment on some of the strategies that we're doing to make a difference, and that people can also do in their homes and their offices and the places where they live and work.
Yeah, we use the word crisis, but there's also an opportunity here, particularly for yourself, someone who has so much passion behind this. What are you most excited about? What are you most able to do in this space? What would you consider cutting edge?
Well, right now, what I'm trying to convince everyone to do, and I didn't have to convince this group, was that, we need to decarbonize. We need to eliminate fossil fuels from our lives, period. We have to change how we get the power that we use for everything. And this is not utopia. This is not something that's way off. We know how to do this now, and it is affordable now. And so here you have a building of this scale, and arenas like this are almost always powered in large part by natural gas. We're going to have no natural gas in this building. This is zero fossil fuels. And so everything is going to be basically electric powered, and all that electric power is coming from renewables. And that's what's exciting, from solar and potentially wind as well. And we're even going beyond that. And you'll hear some of the panelists talking deeper about all the other ways that we impact the planet, and in particular, carbon emissions. And Rob's going to talk about transportation and so forth. We're going to talk about food, but we're really accounting for all of it. We're saying, with Amazon as a partnership here, that we need to account for how people get to the events, and what are the emissions with their transportation, and how do we offset those? What about all the carbon embodied in the construction? And another one of our esteemed panelists is going to unpack that a little bit. But all of this is a total picture that really says we don't need fossil fuels, and we can do it now on a venue like this. And there's going to be solar right on the arena entry pavilion that people can see. It's really exciting. And all together, this will be the world's first zero carbon certified arena, certified right here in Seattle by the International Living Future Institute.
And you mentioned decarbonization. This world without fossil fuels, clearly we have a massive way to go. In terms of Climate Pledge Arena and the science behind getting it to zero carbon, what changes did you come in and have to make to get to that status, as you mentioned, to be certified as zero carbon?
Yeah, well, as you can imagine, there's a lot of things that typically use gas, and so we had to go all the way down to the electric Zamboni instead of an internal combustion engine Zamboni. Again, that'll be discussed. We had to look at how we're cooking food. Again, not cooking on natural gas. We're using induction and electric devices only. We had to look at how do you dehumidify the ice so you don't have fog on the ice during games, because this is the NHL, high standards. So we have to do that with electricity and not natural gas, and then hot water and space heating. All these things normally we bring in a pipe, and unfortunately that causes emissions and pollution and all sorts of unintended consequences. And we're not doing any of that. This is a clean arena. This is going to be one that has better indoor air quality. It's going to be healthier for the fans. It's going to be healthier for the community. It's the right thing to do. And again, just thrilled to be part of this incredible initiative.
Yeah, so you take out natural gas, you make it all electric, and then in terms of the science behind the energy, it's renewable energy, isn't it? But this isn't just energy that'll be on site. Can you just give us a little bit more detail about the energy sources? You touched on it a little bit, but go deeper for us on the renewable energy that will be a big part of Climate Pledge Arena.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the most visible stuff is what people can see when they come, and the garage and the roof of the entry pavilion will have solar, so people can see that. The majority of the energy is coming from offsite, and there will be offsite solar farms and wind potentially as well that will be providing 100% of the energy that we use around the year, each year. And so people won't see that, but we're going to be tracking it all. We're going to be sharing this very transparently. Again, something we can unpack further. Part of the importance of this is education, but we want to make sure that we're being transparent. We're going to be sharing with the fans how we're using energy, how we're using water, and they're going to be able to see this on the website when they come into the arena. It's going to be a smarter arena, and we are going to be sharing the science with people so that they understand how it actually works. Very important.
And one of the other big targets here is zero waste. There's a big drive towards getting rid of that waste, of course. Not only that, a pledge to be plastic free in the years to come. In an arena, we all love to go and get our beer in the plastic cup and get our fries and our burgers. How do you go about making that good in an arena that will hold around 18,000 people?
Well, that's the challenge, and I don't want to steal the thunder of other panelists, but again, when you bring so many people to one venue, it's like a city. Like when you have a venue like this, it's like an instant city. And with that is all the trash potentially that is generated, as you're mentioning, the stuff that's consumed, etc. And so all that has to be thought differently. And so you design and purchase different things so that you're not creating waste. You're buying things that can be composted, or they could be part of a closed loop recycling paradigm, and you made it to the next thing and into the next thing. And that's the idea. And so I would love for fans to come in here and they don't find stuff they have to throw away. Yes, they put it in a bin, but the bin is going to provide a service down the line, and it's not trash and it's not waste, and doesn't end up in our oceans where the Kraken will live. We don't want it to die of plastic pollution. So we need to do things differently.
How much is that on habit changing, of nudging people, as Richard Thaler, the great economist out of Chicago, would say, the nudge theory, to give people that idea that this is what they should be doing? How much is it about the fan to play their part to eliminate waste?
It's really not that hard. We have always found in our work that the idea of change is much more difficult for people than the change itself. So people, when they think, oh, I'm going to have to change, it's really hard for people, and they resist, and they can imagine how it's going to make their lives this or that. And then usually after 20 minutes or one game or two games, it will just be, yeah, this is how we do it. And they'll go to another city, and that will seem weird how they do it. How come they don't do what we do? We're much better in Seattle. And so, I think it's just about behavior change, but it's not a big deal. This is not about a lesser experience. Quite the contrary. The goal is always a better experience. And one of the things that we've learned in sustainability is you don't guilt and shame people into change. And you don't try to make them have a diminished experience if you want the change to be lasting. You throw a better party, and we are going to throw a better party here in Seattle and do it right and inspire others to live more responsibly, because it's the cool way to do it.
And we mentioned, of course, at the top of this all, it's about becoming zero carbon certified. You serve as the chairman of the International Living Future Institute.
Well, I used to. I'm not the chairman anymore.
Yeah. How does that relate to Climate Pledge Arena?
Well, it's been a great professional pleasure to have founded the International Living Future Institute. I'm not the chair now. I stepped off. We have a wonderful new chair, but I am on the board. So I'm a volunteer for the organization. It's an amazing entity. It's all about envisioning the world we need to be, operating as, and so it provides standards and tools and resources to shift industries. And so that's the organization that is going to do the third-party vetting of how we're doing. Are we living up to our expectations? Are we doing what we promised? And they're going to be certifying that this is what's happening. It's a great nonprofit based here in Seattle, but does work all over the world.
And we just talked a little bit about the fans there, how they can play their part. One of the really cool things is that they can almost physically play their part when it comes to rainwater. And you might think, what the heck? What's rainwater and fans who will be coming to Climate Pledge Arena got to do with this arena? But actually, you can let us in on how this will help bring the greenest ice to the National Hockey League.
Well, there's lots of cool stories in this project, and you're hitting upon one. And I know, again, some of my colleagues on the panel will share more. But you have to make ice from water, clearly, and we want to have the best statement around this possible. So we are going to be collecting water off of this great big beautiful roof and treating it to NHL standards and using it to create ice. And we want to engage the fans, and I think there's going to be probably some creative opportunities for people to bring rainwater from their roofs at times to contribute to this. It's something that we're going to work out. And already mentioned, then we'll have an electric Zamboni running around doing its thing. So there's a real host of reasons why it's the greenest ice, we think, anywhere. But I'm going to let my colleagues touch more on that.
Fantastic. Just one more question from me before we go. It's not actually a question from me, but already through on the live stream. I'd love to throw one at you, Jason. This is from Bob Walters. He says 15,000 or so people generate a lot of heat. What features are included in the HVAC system to dissipate heat in a green manner?
Well, having this big high roof is actually one of the natural ways that you handle things in a venue like this, is you allow heat to do what it wants to do, which is to rise, and then you vent it. And we have to, when you have this many fans in one spot, we also not only generate heat, we exhale a lot of other things that we shouldn't be breathing in higher concentrations. And so you have to provide a lot of fresh air and ventilation. And we have to make sure that we're doing so in an energy efficient manner, and that we're not having a leaky building, yet at the same time ensuring that we have a heat exchange that is positive. So part of this is just our need to create a healthy interior environment for the fans. We've set up the building design to ensure that that is the case, and thankfully the heat wants to go up, not down where the ice is. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, in a subterranean venue, that probably helps you.
It is. There's all, yes, that's another part of it.
Great stuff. Stay with us.
Okay.
Fascinating insight. We'll have you stick around for the Q&A throughout this evening. Wonderful to hear from you this evening.
My pleasure. I'll hang around.
Yeah, hang around. Make sure that your mum got her birthday present as well while you're at it. Just take the time to check. Jason McLennan with us, part of the International Living Future Institute, and a driver in getting Climate Pledge Arena towards this zero carbon certified arena, the first in the world. So more from Jason a little bit later on. Keep your questions coming in as well on the live stream. We'll sprinkle them in as we go and leave a good portion at the end of tonight's chat to get through as many as we can. So we've heard from Jason. Let's reintroduce Julia Raish now, Senior Program Manager for Sustainable Buildings at Amazon. Of course, Amazon named the building Climate Pledge Arena. Julia, great to have you back on. We mentioned Climate Pledge Arena. The obvious link is Amazon's Climate Pledge. This is something that the organization founded last year. I think it'd be useful for our audience tonight just to fill us in, if you could. What is Amazon's Climate Pledge?
Yeah, sure. It's a great question. So yeah, it has been just about a year. Amazon co-founded the pledge in September 2019. And it commits Amazon and all of the pledge signatories to achieving the goals of the Paris Agreement 10 years early, which in other words is reaching net zero carbon in our operations by 2040. So it's quite an ambitious and really exciting goal. And through the pledge, we're creating a coalition of companies united around the commitment to be carbon neutral by 2040. And as part of that, we commit to measure and report our emissions annually. We want to do real deep decarbonization, as Jason talked about, through real business change. And then lastly, whatever piece that we can't cut out from our carbon emissions, neutralize through nature-based offsets. And so what's really great is the Climate Pledge Arena will serve as a longstanding and regular reminder of the urgent need for climate action to achieve net zero carbon by 2040.
Yeah, and there we see a wonderful rendering of Climate Pledge Arena and what it will look like come game time in 2021. And we look at that building, and in the background, you probably see some Amazon towers there. And you think of Satellite Union in Seattle, and you think of the huge amount of construction that's gone on. And a significant part of that is, of course, Amazon. Your expertise within the company comes in sustainable building. Amazon has a real pledge behind sustainable buildings. Can you give us the idea behind the ethos there and some of the practical measures you're taking as an organization?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So we are bringing the Climate Pledge commitment into our global real estate portfolio. We want to have a highly sustainable real estate portfolio across the globe, across all of our building types, from retail to our customer fulfillment, all of our offices. And that's really a key priority for us. And so one of our major focuses now is driving zero carbon buildings across that entire portfolio. And we have a definition of what that means. And we talked a little bit about that with Jason, and that definition applies here. So we've gotten rid of fossil fuels, fully electric, renewable powered, really highly energy efficient building systems. We want to see a demonstrated reduction in the embodied carbon of the building. And so that's really exciting to be able to bring that commitment from our buildings into this local exemplar of a project. And our sustainable buildings program also includes some other key focus areas as well. We're not just so myopically focused on carbon, but we also really care about human health and wellness. So we want to ensure that our buildings support healthy and productive spaces for visitors and vendors and all of our employees. And we also want to care about other resources. We want our buildings to be resource positive. So we also want to celebrate these other natural resources we have, such as water, as we alluded to with the Greenest Ice. And there's a great water conservation story here in the arena that we'll talk about, as well as stormwater and waste, another key component to the arena. So kind of bringing down the pledge into our global portfolio with the arena really standing up as a great pillar of that commitment.
And you look at this is of course a sports and entertainment arena, very different to a typical office building of Amazon's, for example. So how different is it to assess a carbon footprint for an arena like this compared to a typical building you might look at?
Yeah, it's very different. Of course, we have very intensive uses. We have events. Typical office building has a fairly steady energy profile, pretty predictable uses. We're all familiar with how offices work. So this was a really unique opportunity for us to dive into kind of look at what is the potential carbon footprint of the arena. So what you see here are the estimated emissions that our carbon science team worked really hard to model and come up with based on everything that we know is going to happen in the building and a lot of the math around, okay, well, if we're removing all of the combustion, what are we going to end up with? So to talk through the pie chart just a little bit, the first thing we did, as Jason mentioned, is, okay, we've got to address fossil fuels, get combustion out of the building. So we removed natural gas from all major arena systems, and we removed all diesel from the building except for just a small amount of use for a backup generator. So that's where you see that less than 1% in the fossil fuels. And even for a lot of our systems that require refrigerants, we're using natural refrigerants. For example, a lot of the processes to make the greenest ice in the NHL use ammonia, which is a natural refrigerant. And of course, we greatly improved the energy efficiency of the whole building. And as was mentioned earlier, it's going to be powered by a combination of on-site and off-site renewable energy. So combined, that brings our electricity emissions, net down to zero. And so really what we found from this analysis and looking through this carbon footprint was that the majority of the emissions are in what the industry would call scope 3. So it's in the materials associated with the building, the transportation that we talked about, the food and the beer and the great things that you get there and the merchandise that you buy, as well as other purchased goods. And so, with transportation, there's such a large chunk there because what we looked at for our total boundary was everything related to the team, the performers, the attendees, So we looked at team travel, how many trips, the anticipated number of events, what happens if a performer comes to the building, and kind of all of that goes into the inclusiveness of that.
And you talked about embodied carbon a little bit. As a layman who's not really come across that term before, can you explain to me what you're looking at when you're considering embodied carbon in a building like this?
Yeah, great point. So the embodied carbon is the emissions that's associated with the extraction, the processing, the manufacturing of building materials and construction materials. So in a typical building, you'd see a much larger percent there of this pie, but the arena is unique because this is an existing building. So first thing you do when you're thinking about reducing the embodied carbon emissions in your buildings is, do we need to build in the first place? Could we reuse? Could we refurbish a building? Can we reuse materials from another building? So that's one reason why that slice of this pie is so low. And in this case, really a lot of that reuse was the 44 million pound Key Arena roof, concrete roof that's there. That we were able to reuse. And as you alluded to earlier, the building is built low into the ground. So it also saves from other materials in the facade that a typical building would have as you build up. And the roof is a bit interesting, not just from a carbon perspective, but Key Arena is an iconic and historic structure in Seattle. It has great landmark value for us in the city. It's a part of our beautiful Seattle Center built for the World's Fair in the early 60s. So not only just having the building go down and using the existing roof helps the carbon profile of the building, but it also, most importantly, helps preserve the view of the Seattle landscape, which was really important for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned you had to do a tremendous amount of calculations. There's plenty of math that goes into, as you mentioned, trips, transportation, because the arena won't, in a standalone sense, be carbon zero. You have to consider carbon offsets. What considerations have gone into that to enable this building to be carbon zero?
Yeah, that's a great point. With the offsets, as part of our climate pledge and Amazon's commitment is we really are committed to decarbonization. So we want to reduce the carbon emissions through real change and inviting others to do so as well, and pushing on the industry in our buildings as best as we can before we would engage in offsets. And that's kind of the step with the pledge, is we want to measure and report, we want to decarbonize, and then whatever else we can't decarbonize through real change is what we would say neutralize through our offsets. So that's anything we can't actively reduce, let's say because the industry may not be there yet, or there might be other kind of logistical concerns or issues on a project where there's going to be a little bit of a carbon left. And so our strategy on the offsets is we're also to offset that remaining piece of carbon, we're really looking for additionality there and nature-based solutions. And that's also part of our commitment to maintain the arena's ongoing zero carbon certification through the International Living Future Institute. And so our carbon science and innovation team will work closely with this broader arena partnership group to measure the emissions and report publicly on those, but also work together to secure the appropriate offsets that meet the rigor of our offset standards.
Julie, we've been looking at a chart there about the carbon emissions. We have a question in online from Sergeant Pickles 13. I wonder if you could allude to this. What would the carbon impact chart look like for quote unquote a normal arena? Is there any way you could qualify that?
I would say in a normal arena, you would see a much larger use in fossil fuels in electricity. So when you're striving for a zero carbon arena, you're really driving down a lot of the combustion in the building and trying to be as efficient as possible, and then powered by renewables. So you would see those first two, the less than 1% and the 0%, would be much larger. And then the building materials would probably be larger as well, especially if it was a new construction arena. Some arenas, if you've been into other NHL arenas, they're larger, they look like multi-story buildings. So a newer construction building that's much larger and built above ground would have a much higher percentage in the building materials category. I think transportation, depending on how an equivalent arena that's not zero carbon would create their carbon boundary for their math, transportation would still be a very large piece of the pie, because these events have a lot of people in attendance. There's multiple games on the schedule from both the teams, plus performers. Plus, as part of being the Climate Pledge Arena, we have also made a commitment to host events that celebrate the environment and our commitment to green operations. So there's also some traditional events happening at the arena as well.
And as you mentioned, there's going to be a tremendous number of events, not only sports, you go into entertainment. What about the holistic nature of the sustainability building program? What will be the full impacts of arena operations when you consider the ongoing energy needs, food, and the like?
Yeah, that's great. The program here is very thorough and very robust, and all of my respect and accolades go out to everybody who worked on this from the very beginning, because the thinking that they brought to this was incredibly holistic, and we're all very proud of it. And so there's a lot of great things happening, and some of these we'll detail here a little bit later in the presentation. But as Jason mentioned, we're going to be the first arena in the world to certify as a zero carbon arena through the International Living Future Institute. We have featuring compostable cutlery and containers. We've banned single-use plastics. There's a really robust locally sourced food and beverage program. At least 75% of all of the arena's food program will be sourced locally. And then all viable unused food from events will be donated to community food programs. We also have a commitment to divert at least 95% of the ongoing arena waste from landfills, so striving to be a zero waste arena as well. And then, given the outsized impact of those transit generated carbon emissions you see on the screen, there's also a really robust transportation program that'll be detailed later. And so those are some of the additional components. And one of the ones I think is also really interesting and has a connection to carbon is the water side, and is being having the greenest ice in the NHL.
Is that one of the things you're most excited about, the green ice? And give us a bit more detail on how that's going to work.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. So I'll just share a little bit about how we believe this is the greenest ice in the NHL. And what I think is really interesting about this story is that we often talk a lot about energy as it relates to carbon, but there is a unique story here and a link with water and carbon. So here at the arena, there's multiple cisterns, large cisterns inside and outside the building that are capturing reclaimed rainwater to make the ice, using that roof hat as well. And typically when you're making ice for hockey, it has to go through certain dehumidification and purification standards to meet National Hockey League standards, which are logical. They're very high because we have professional sports teams playing on them. So there's quite a robust process that goes there, and that's usually processed by natural gas. That dehumidification and removing the impurities is usually done by natural gas. And so here at the Climate Pledge Arena, it's all electric. And it also uses ammonia-based refrigerants to reduce emissions even further. And ammonia is a natural refrigerant, and refrigerants are very potent when it comes to their impact to broader climate change. And then, as Jason mentioned, the Zambonis are all electric. I don't know if we're the first arena to do that, but that also just complements the whole Greenest Ice kind of program that is put in place. And there will be more later in the future, but there's also going to be some great fan engagement on the water piece as well.
Yeah, we're very much looking forward to that. And you mentioned this is very much a partnership here. There are very many people, organizations involved in making this arena zero carbon. How about keeping each other honest? How are you going to make sure that this will continue to be a zero carbon environment?
Yeah, great question. And that's directly related to our climate pledge commitment, because Amazon as a company is committed to report on our emissions annually and to take on those decarbonization measures. And so one of the great things about this arena partnership that we're really excited about is that there's a shared long-term agreement and commitment to make sure all of us are kept honest and good about these claims that we have with the building. and really honor them authentically. So there will be the carbon emissions with all of these varied sources that will be shared on the website, also shared with people who come to these events at the arena. And we're really looking forward to this partnership to help us all meet our goals and leverage this group to keep everybody accountable to that.
Just before you go, for now, Julie, before we go to the Q&A part of our evening and we hear from Rosie and Rob as well, I'd love to get another viewer question in for you. SDT Bone says, will operating cost for the likes of power and water be more or less than a typical arena? Could there even be a cost benefit, they ask?
Great question. Yeah, what we've been finding is that generally there's a lot of smart decisions we can make with our buildings to move towards zero carbon buildings that are cost neutral or cost beneficial. A lot of that could come from choosing more high efficiency systems that can pay back over time and reduce your ongoing operations. A lot of the lower carbon building material choices don't come with a cost premium or a cost impact. So there's also a, either a neutral or a savings opportunity there. And of course, having on-site solar can help reduce some of those operations as well. So there's a lot of things that can happen, that can play into, that make it a financially viable case. With the caveat that I don't have all the details on this particular building to really go into details, but I think that zero carbon buildings in the industry generally are still fairly new, and another reason why this arena is so exciting. And so there are still things out there that will, on an individual basis, come with a premium until that construction and building industry catches up and this becomes more of a norm. And that's one way that Amazon is really excited to use its size and scale to help create that change and really push that change out in the industry for everybody's benefit.
And a last question for now, Julia. I mean, maybe even personally, have you ever worked on a project like this?
This one is very unique. I have worked on zero carbon buildings. I've worked on an arena. I've worked on very high performance buildings that have amazing water reuse and conservation, really robust food programs. But I have to say, I've never worked on a project that has put all of those pieces together in one place. And as you and Jason mentioned earlier, this is a really unique type of building that has very concentrated and intense uses. So to bring all of that really robust thinking around what is a sustainable building and what does it mean for the city of Seattle and our community, and how do we maintain the joy and engagement from all of the fans for getting so excited to come to an arena and go to events. So to do that all together and wrap it up into one is really unique for me personally, and something I think gets all of us really excited.
Yeah, absolutely. Julia, great insight. Thank you very much indeed. And stay with us as well for further questions from our audience this evening. Julia Raich, Senior Program Manager for Sustainable Buildings at Amazon, who named Climate Pledge Arena. So let's dig down further, shall we, into, not literally, we know it's a subterranean arena, but into the actual waste materials, water conservation, food, nutrition that will be part of Climate Pledge Arena. And rejoining us is Rosie Selle, VP of Marketing for Climate Pledge Arena. We've heard so much great detail already, Rosie. I hope you can put some more meat on the bones for us. We touched briefly about zero waste with Jason a little bit earlier. Can you speak more about the idea behind that, and also the materials and how you're looking to be as economical as possible there?
Awesome, thank you. Happy to join back in. It's great because every time I listen to Jason, and I've gotten to know Julia a little bit through this, I get so inspired, and I can't wait to open this building next year. So one of the, let me see if my little slide can go forward. One of the big the things that I'm most excited about is being a zero single use plastic venue. And as we all have kind of touched on, when you go to an arena or a festival, you know how much single plastic is used. And so one of our commitments is to be eliminate single-use plastic from the get-go where we can, and that's a majority of it. And you can kind of the viewers can look at this chart and see the different products that we'll be replacing traditionally plastic products in. So whether it's food containers being, completely compostable, I'm looking at the chart as well. So paper bags instead of plastic bags, obviously. My favorite is boxed candy versus the little plastic wrapper candy. And then obviously working with our beverage partners to become truly zero, 100% single-use plastic free by 2024. And it's something that we're talking with those partners now, obviously getting further into it, and they're all committed to that as well.
And as well as waste and materials, you mentioned single-use plastics is a huge part of that. What about the water conservation? We've talked a little bit with Julia and with Jason about getting the greenest ice, but what are you doing more broadly as regards water conservation?
Definitely. So I think one of the most fun things, and I know Rob Johnson, who's going to be coming up shortly, he loves this story. I love this story. We all know the historic roof that this brand new building is being built underneath. And it was built in 1962. Paul Theory designed it, and he was inspired by a Salish rain hat. And you can kind of see the picture in the comparison of the building originally and then the hat. And what we're doing is we're taking this rain hat roof and we're going to collect it in these large cisterns to help produce the ice, just as Julia and Jason have kind of outlined a little bit more in detail. So that's one part that obviously we're very, very excited about. And then also the rainwater retention for all the landscaping. So not just inside the building, but on the campus, we'll have beautiful landscaping, and we get to say that that's all going to be maintained with rainwater retention. On top of that, fans and guests can experience multiple and a lot of water bottle filling stations. So those will be prevalent in the building. So you can bring your own water bottle and fill it up. Again, helping us reduce down to that functionally zero waste that we want to be. And then ultra efficient showers. And we all like to talk about urinals, I know, but those will be ultra efficient. And when you think about a building that's 800,000 square feet, the number of toilets and showers and faucets that accommodate that size, having ultra efficient fixtures really does make a difference.
And we've talked about water conservation there. What about one of the big ones for fans, food, nutrition? What kind of options will there be? We know, living in the Pacific Northwest, we don't just like your regulation drinks, your beers or whatever. What kind of efforts are being made at Climate Pledge Arena as regards food and nutrition?
Yeah, I think that I hope most people who are listening who have attended an event can relate. But I think food and beverage is a huge part of the experience of an arena. You go to your favorite concession stand or your favorite item. It's part of that live entertainment experience. And so I do think we're extremely lucky living in the Northwest. We get to live next to amazing local food resources. And as Julia mentioned, we'll have 75% of our food ingredients that'll be sourced within a 300-mile radius. The other one that I'm really excited about too is amazing Pacific Northwest wine and beer. We don't have to go too far to find some really, really great adult beverages. And then the other part that we'll be doing is we'll have seasonal menus. So we won't be sourcing fruits and vegetables from very far away. So we'll be having seasonal menus. So when the fans experience, an event that's in the spring and the fall, those menus might look a little bit different.
Great stuff. What are you most looking forward to in terms of what this arena is able to do in moving construction of sports and entertainment arenas forward, Rosie?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's amazing to use the power of sports and entertainment, whether it's through media broadcasts with the Kraken in their gameplay, or it's the multiple amazing performers that are going to come through, and being able to push the Climate Pledge, that name, out there to the world and stand for something just a little bit different. I think it really speaks and is a testament to Amazon and their commitment of not just being the normal. This is a little bit different. And that's what I'm excited about. I'm excited about having a building that I get to market fans. I get to tell artists and agents and promoters like, hey, we're doing this a little bit different and it's for the right reason.
Great stuff. Great stuff. Well, thank you very much indeed, Rosie, and stay with us as well as we continue to chat. And you can leave questions for Rosie in our comments section on this broadcast right now as well. Let's turn to Rob Johnson now. We've been prefacing you a few times, Rob, so the pressure is on. People keep saying, Rob's going to talk a little bit more about this. Here is your opportunity, the VP of Sustainability and Transportation for Seattle Kraken. Talk to me first, Rob, about the science of emissions when it comes to transport. We've got 18,000 plus maybe people coming to this arena. How are they going to do it? Are they all going to be coming by car and driving? And if not, how is it going to work?
It's a great question, Ross. So, before we announced the team name, the most popular question that we got for anybody who worked for the team in the arena was, what's the team name going to be? And then that question was usually followed by, how the heck am I going to get to the building? We're fortunate to be working in a building that has existed since the early 1960s. So we've got some really good data to go back to, right? There was traffic patterns that existed before the building went dark for reconstruction. There's environmental impact studies that have been done. There's projections that have been made about how folks are going to get to and from. And we've also got this really wonderful list of 32,000 deposit holders and 55,000 people on our wait list that allows for us to capture all that data and build out a really great model about how we think people are going to get to and from. Julia talked earlier about some of the opportunities that we've got with transportation to really reduce those emissions that we can't eliminate. And then when we can, offset the rest. So we believe that the building in and of itself can be one of those shining examples of coaching people up to think differently, because the region has really grown a lot in the last decade. We all know how significant growth in the region has become. And we don't have a lot of learned behavior here. So we're a building that doesn't have a recent past history of having folks come to a lot of events, which allows for us to really talk to people about how they might come to this building differently than somebody, for example, who's been tailgating at the same parking spot at Husky Stadium for 3 generations, right? And so we can collect all that data and we can use it to build out great communications and marketing tools and use our transportation network and our systems to really encourage people to think differently and really allow for us to tamp down those emissions coming from transportation, and those that we can't eliminate, offset other ways.
I was going to say, do you have an idea right now about the number of people that will be driving into this stadium, despite maybe the best efforts to reduce those numbers of cars? We are a car-first society, aren't we? How do you go about calculating that and changing those habits? And then, as you say, offsetting the rest to be carbon zero?
It's a great question, Ross. So I've got a giant Excel spreadsheet, right? And I've got this data set that says these fans who are within this section of the arena, coming from this geography, times the average number of people per car, times the number of fans that we think will drive from this section of the state versus those that might have other options. And you aggregate that all up and it looks like a really, really messy, giant Excel file. And so what we've been able to do is use that data and create some infographics and find some ways for us to be able to tell the story about fans who might have no choice but to drive because they live so far away, fans who might have no choice but to walk because they live so close, and everybody else in between, right? So our estimates right now say that, as many as 20% of our fans live an hour plus drive away from the building for a home hockey night. And another 5 to 10% live so close that they'll be walking to and from. So for the remainder of those 75%, they're all within generally about a half an hour drive or 45-minute transit ride. Those folks are flexible, they're coachable, they're teachable. And if we give them the right kind of information, the right kind of economic incentives, and the right kind of opportunities, we think that they're going to think differently about how they're going to get to and from. You're right, Ross. We are a city and a region that traditionally does think about cars first. But we're also one of, if not the only cities in the country that pre-COVID was seeing a year-over-year increase in our transit ridership. So we believe, I think, in environmental sustainability as a region. We act on that sustainability by choosing public transit when it's given to us. And our building is going to open alongside the next round of light rail opening in North Seattle to the Northgate light rail station. And light rail is going to continue to expand throughout the region until 2024. We've got a system that is more than double the size of the system we have today. Those are really great opportunities for us to talk to people about how that choice is going to be not only more sustainable from an environmental perspective, but also a lot cheaper and probably a lot faster than driving to the building.
And the public transit subsidy, which is being offered for tickets to come and watch Seattle Kraken games, is not necessarily the first in the nation to offer that, but pretty groundbreaking, I think, in its scope. Can you talk to us about what exactly people are entitled to, the systems where this public transit subsidy will be honored for them?
It's a great question. And what you're seeing on the screen right now is a rendering of the proposed interior of the new monorail station at Westlake Center. The team in the arena are making a $7 million private investment in this public transportation system that will be able to get people from Westlake Center to the arena's front door in 2 minutes. And that kind of investment, we think, will really unlock a lot of opportunities for a lot of people, including those who might want to take public transit to and from games, or those who might want inexpensive parking downtown and want to take a fast monorail ride over. The public transit subsidy that we're talking about for our home hockey and home Storm games would be eligible on 4 or 5 different transportation modes. We're thinking about King County Metro Bus, Sound Transit Regional Express Bus, Sound Transit's light rail train, the streetcar, the water taxi, the monorail. And we're asking folks who have an ORCA card through their work to use that ORCA card already so that we can preserve this subsidy for those folks who truly need it. Because we want this building to be a building that's accessible for everybody. And we want to try to find ways that those fans who are saving up resources to be able to come to a game with their family and friends can see us as a gateway for them to get to and from. There's only 2 other professional sports franchises in North America that offer this kind of subsidy. The Phoenix Suns building down in Arizona, and then also the new building that just opened in San Francisco, the Chase Center. Those 2 happen to be run currently and previously by the same sports executive. So we'd like to think we're the first non-Rick Welts building to do this in North America. And all shout out to Rick Welts, a guy who was born here in Seattle, raised in Seattle, whose love for the game of basketball was fostered here in Seattle. And we're standing on the shoulders of him and his work in both of those 2 buildings to bring something really innovative to the city of Seattle.
And not only the public transport subsidy here, you've got rideshare plans too. This is a suite, a package of measures, if you would. And beyond that, you talk to us about micro-mobility, which we can see here. What is the range of options? There seems to be a whole welter of options for people to get to the arena in what might be considered non-traditional ways of old.
It's a great question, Ross. So, when we go out and talk to our fans in both a pre-COVID environment and in a post-COVID environment, there's a lot of interest in rideshare. Not a lot of folks are necessarily riding rideshare vehicles right now, but we've been hearing from fans that they might be more willing to take a rideshare vehicle in a post-COVID environment than they might be to get back on public transportation. And that creates real logistical challenges. If we have 25% of our fans taking a rideshare vehicle to or from an arena event, it would require a whole lot of vehicles circling around the Seattle Center campus or vehicles staged off-site that could be deployed to the campus. And that creates a lot of traffic congestion in and of itself. So we're working with companies like Uber and Lyft to innovate in this space and create things like destination-based pickup and drop-off zones, where if you're going to the east side, you're going to be getting picked up or dropped off on a different part of campus than somebody who might be going to Ballard or West Seattle. And allowing our fans who are coming to hockey games, to Storm games, or to concerts or events at the Climate Pledge Arena to be able to have great wayfinding that would take them to different parts of campus based on where their end destination is at the end of the night. We want to do similar things with our parking programs and our parking systems. And we also think we're going to be a really fun place for people to come with other choices. Scooter share was just approved by the city of Seattle. So we think scooters are coming and coming quickly. We know that biking and walking is going to be a really important part, particularly during the spring and summer months for this building. We also know that those modes change based on the audience who's coming tonight to the show that night. We had a fun conversation with our friends down at Chase Center who suggested they had a lot fewer people bike to the WWE Monday Night Raw event than they had bike to the Bon Iver concert a couple of weeks later. So we know who's playing in the show that night is going to influence how people are going to get to and from. And what I'm excited about is building a system that we think can be flexible based on that audience and really, again, do a great job of communicating with people about the whole wealth of choices that are available to them.
What about some of the incentives for people to change their behaviors? We know that parking prices are pretty high, I would say, for an average fan to come and watch a game. Is that something you can do to maybe disincentivize people to drive or use garages more smartly? What's the current thinking around that?
It's a great question. We're thinking really differently about parking. Again, based on that giant Excel spreadsheet that I keep referring to, we've modeled out that we need about 4,000 or so parking spaces to be able to handle the demand of folks who might want to drive to an arena event. And that's going to fluctuate, right? You'll likely have more people drive to a concert because they might be coming once a year as opposed to drive to a home Storm game or home Kraken game. Because if you're a season ticket holder, you might be coming to those in a lot of other ways. So we're going to offer a whole host of parking based off of what we think are different price points. It's going to be expensive to park by the arena's front door, less expensive to park within a 10 or 15-minute walk, and cheap to park downtown and take the monorail over. So we think not only will that be good for our fans who might want to have parking at a differentiated rate, but also great for the environment. A lot of the emissions coming to the building could be accounted for from all those folks who are stuck in traffic for the last half mile trying to get into an arena parking garage. If we can get those folks to park quickly based on a parking garage that they've pre-reserved a space in, we think we can really drive a lot of those emissions out of our emissions model. And we also think it's going to create a whole lot of great opportunities for people to think about parking based off of where they're going at the end of the night. People might think they want to park right next to the arena's front door because that's going to be the fastest way to get in and out. But it actually might be a heck of a lot faster for them to park on the opposite side of campus because that's 1 block away from the entrance to Highway 99. And if they walk 5 minutes to that garage, they're going to get on the freeway a heck of a lot faster to get home than they would be parking by the arena's front door and then circling around in a whole bunch of traffic for a half an hour, post-event. So we're doing a lot of interesting things there. We're also doing some really cool things with electric vehicle charging stations and trying to really build out a better network there with the possibility of expanding as we get more and more electric vehicles on the marketplace. There's just a lot of innovations that are happening in transportation right now. And I'm excited about what we're doing for day one, but I'm most excited about the fact that we're going to be innovating and we're going to constantly evolve and we're going to operate very differently, I think, on day 366 than we will on day one, because we'll have a whole lot of things that we'll be able to learn and adapt once we actually open this thing next year.
And what about around the arena itself? There's obviously a huge investment, nearly $1 billion going into this arena to be the best it can possibly be for sports and entertainment. But are you making any investments outside of the physical arena itself to try and improve and get towards this noble venture of zero carbon?
We are, Ross. So, you mentioned the $1 billion private investment that we're making in this facility. in addition, I'm really proud of the fact that our team and our arena cares a lot about our community. You know, we've made a $10 million commitment to youth care to help ending youth homelessness. We've made a $40 million commitment to the city of Seattle for transportation infrastructure investments in and around the arena. And those have no strings attached. Those allow for the city of Seattle to make determinations about how they want to best spend those dollars. I mentioned the $7 million in addition that we're spending in private money to upgrade the monorail system. You know, we're working with people who really understand the transportation challenges that we have in this arena, and they're not afraid to lean in and suggest there's a lot that we can do to help. We are not all the experts here. We want to partner with the city. We want to partner with rideshare companies. We want to partner with micro mobility solutions. And we want to learn from our fans about how they want to get to and from events. And we want to be flexible and adjust over time. So this is a lot of fun things happening. And we hope, again, that day one is going to be a great, great event, and that we're going to continue to learn from those events and change and grow over time.
Well, great insight, Rob. Thank you very much indeed. Stay there. Don't go anywhere. I'll let you have a little sip of water extra, because that concludes our kind of formal panel part this evening. If I could ask Jason and Rosie and Julia to switch their cameras back on so we can see your lovely faces. We're going to throw it around now for a good 15 minutes, 20 minutes or so to get questions from the public and get a little bit more insight. I always love to say at these events, I ask okay questions, but the questions from the audience are always absolutely fantastic. And I think let's start with you, Rob, about another transport question. Do you know how long, this is from analytics user, it'll project to take to clear the arena of traffic? They say in Vancouver, it's around 20 minutes.
So the environmental impact study that the city did associated with the construction of the building, Ross, asked us to make sure that all of the parking garages that we operate and that the Seattle Center and city operates nearby are all cleared out within 40 minutes. So our benchmark that we've been asked to hit is that everybody in a post-event environment is back on their way in 40 minutes or less. We think that that's a really good number for us to hit. Anybody who might have been to, like me, the Nutcracker this last year, you know that if you park in the top of the Mercer garage, it can sometimes take 40 minutes just to get out to Mercer Street, let alone get down Mercer to I-5. So we've got a big challenge ahead of us to, again, coach people up to think differently here, and also work proactively with the city to find ways to really speed that transition out. I'll admit, I've subjected my kids to that. I said, okay, we're going to try to experiment here, kids. We're going to be the last car out of the garage. We'll see how long it takes us. We listened to a lot of Harry Potter audiobooks that day. But generally, we want to experiment. We want to have those experiential uses because Rosie, Julia, Jason, and I, we want to be able to say to our fans, we're out there doing this with you on a daily basis. We know how long it really does take, and we are committed to making it better.
Great stuff. Let's go to Rosie now for arena operations. A question, Rosie, from Will Doherty says, what aspects of the arena experience do you think will lead people to adopt more sustainable practices in their daily lives? And what does the Amazon working backwards approach tell you about this?
Well, I think I can definitely answer the first one, and it's through our fan engagement program. I think some of the things that the team will be doing, whether it's rain to rink programming that's been mentioned before, but I also think just experiencing a building when you come in and you're not throwing things away like you traditionally are. There's going to be infographics, and we're going to be, communicating with ticket purchasers and ticket holders when they come to the arena. We'll be saying, hey, did you know you can do this? And I think that part of the fan engagement program that we're working to will hopefully help people understand that it's not that difficult, as Jason said. It's just that little nudge. Once you've got a good plan in place, it's pretty easy to just do things a little bit better, and it can make such a difference. But I'll leave the Amazon question to Julia.
Yeah, Julia, would you like to chip in there? Is there anything you could add to that?
Yeah, definitely. I think, we've been asked sort of why is it Climate Pledge Arena and not the Amazon Smile logo? And maybe that speaks to this question a little bit too, is, really the big intent with the Climate Pledge Arena is to provide people a regular reminder of the importance of fighting climate change. And a lot of that comes through engagement with the visitors to the arena and the fans. And hopefully the arena inspires climate action by introducing the event goers to the space to a unique, sustainable event experience. And maybe even provides a model for other multi-purpose venues to follow, and cities are inspired also to build green event spaces in their own cities. And I think this whole group here, as we've all alluded to, is really proud to invest locally to make sure the great work being done in our hometown for climate-based initiatives by everybody who's here is really advanced by this venture.
I should say, by the way, Rosie, Rob, and Jason, at any point, feel free to jump in now. This is the free-form part of the evening. So if you want to add anything to anything any of the contributors have said, please do. Julia, I'll stay with you for this one. This is from Katie D'Amato. Will artists, performers at the Climate Pledge Arena need their riders to meet a certain set of requirements that support the carbon zero efforts?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. And I don't know the answer to that. Not sure if Rob or Rosemary may know that one. But yeah, that's a great question. I know that the emissions associated with them coming to the arena is included in our carbon boundary, and we want to account for that and obviously encourage the green operations that we're doing out with everybody in that ecosystem. But for a particular rider on their contract, yeah, I don't know. That's a great question. See if anyone else on this panel knows.
I might jump in. I don't think that we can require anything, but we're definitely putting in our information to artists that this is what we're committed to, and we would love for your efforts to match that. And we're committed to offsetting your carbon footprint, whether you agree to it or not. But that's what's so great, as we kind of alluded to in the beginning of this presentation, is that this was a lot of it inspired by the Billie Eilishes and Coldplay and Pearl Jam, who are really, really focused on their footprint and how they tour, because touring is not traditionally something that's thought of as being a green effort. So I think that we're going to do the work for them, and we're hoping that they'll come along with us. And I think that that's the goal.
Okay, thank you very much. Jason, let's bring you back in for a little while. You've been sitting very patiently there, waiting to be asked another question, and we appreciate that. This is a question from Jeff. He says, is Climate Pledge Arena going to use outside airflow for cooling and heating? He says there's some cool building designs that use this quite effectively.
Well, part of the idea is to use, the natural temperature that we enjoy in this climate when we can. Economize, recycle, et cetera. So, we're going to be doing what we can, but we do have to maintain, if we're talking about hockey, a particular set of conditions in that space for the hockey. So it really depends on what's happening in the arena and what kind of temperature set points, and conditions, humidity level, everything is, dependent upon what's happening inside at that particular moment.
And another question, maybe probably best suited to you, Jason, from Bob. Wooden seats or plastic inside the arena?
Oh, you know what? I don't know the answer to that one, where we're at with the seats. Rob, do you know the answer to that one?
Rosie, do you know the answer to that one?
Oh my goodness. I know that we are going through RFPs right now to scope out those, but I don't know the details. That is
but this is a good reminder that I need to dig into that with you guys next. We haven't gotten to the seats. This is a project that is under design or under construction heavily, but there's still a lot of the final FF&E, as we call it, the fixtures, furnishings, equipment, is still being pinned down. So that's a great question.
Yeah, we'll throw that into our carbon model to make sure we're accounting for that. It's a great question.
The audience always asks the best questions, everybody.
Yeah, the stumper.
Julia, Jason, probably for both of you maybe to share this from Milo. He says, how can we trace the power to green sources? I imagine it comes from a shared grid. Is this project contributing to the development of green power facilities?
Julia, why don't you take this one since you guys are...
Okay, I'll start. So yes, it's part of the commitment to have additional renewable energy, so net new renewable energy. We have a very wonderful renewable energy team that would probably be better suited than myself to answer that inside Amazon of how they trace that. But we do look really closely and work very closely with our utility providers, looking at grid emissions, and definitely make sure that all of our whatever renewable energy that's provided offsite is net new additional to the grid.
Great. Anything to add for that, Jason? Stay on mute if you want. That gives me your answer. No, good stuff. Okay. Analytics user says, I haven't been to an NHL arena that allows fans to bring bottles in. Are you working with NHL security to change that? Who'd like to jump in on that one?
I'll
Rob?
volunteer, Ross.
Okay, Rob, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, you know, it is a great question. We don't believe that we're going to be able to change that protocol to allow for people to bring reusable bottles into the facility. But we're looking at innovations throughout the marketplace that would allow for those hydration stations that Rosie talked about to have fully recyclable options inside the building. For example, the Ball Company is recently produced a fully recyclable aluminum container that has a lid on it that would allow for you to maybe purchase for a very modest amount that kind of fully recyclable product that you could refill at a hydration station. So one of the great things that we get to do now that we've put this moniker out there on the building is evaluate, I'm not making this up, probably 500 different ways inside the building that we can try to solve for sustainability. And one of the things I'm proudest of is Rosie and I sit on a senior leadership call with our group once a week. And last week, I didn't say a word. And for a half an hour, all those senior leadership folks talked about the different elements of their business that touches sustainability. This has very quickly become part of the ethos of our organization. And we're really taking this concept and implementing it all throughout our business practices. So we're thinking about that kind of a question, Milo, and we haven't figured out exactly what the solution is yet, but we're evaluating a lot of different cool options to do it.
Rosie, you were nodding along. Anything you'd like to add there?
No, I think Rob answered that one perfectly.
Fabulous. Okay, question from to Rob. Do the spikes of people coming and going before and after the event affect the emissions associated with travel? If so, are you thinking about experiences in or around the arena pre and post event? And I think that last part of the question will probably be good for Rosie. So Rob, you fire away first.
Totally. You know, when you're coming to an event at the arena, it's going to be really different for a concert versus a Storm game versus a home hockey game. I get alerts on my phone. The Storm, 3-time WNBA champions, off to a great start in the WNBA bubble, are absolutely destroying the New York Liberty right now. I won't tell anybody, but it is not even close. For a game like that, you might have a lot of fans that are leading up to the fourth quarter or even during the fourth quarter because it's such a blowout. If you're coming to see the Jonas Brothers, Ross, I know you're going to stay until the very last song and Joe Jonas belts out that very last note, right?
I'll be camped out 3 days before, Rob. Don't you worry about that.
Exactly. So that cadence is really different from every event. And we also know that folks are going to arrive in a very, very diluted fashion before an event. But after a concert, you're going to have 99.5% of people that are all going to leave after the show final encore has happened. So the emissions load changes a lot based off of not only the traffic in the neighborhood, but the cadence of people coming and going. This is part of the reason why we think the monorail is such a really great option for us. By significantly upgrading the capacity of the monorail, we know we could handle a whole lot more people with a lot more frequency to get them to and from downtown. And once you're downtown, whether you're a transit person, a rideshare person, a parking person, the world is your oyster. You're going to have so many more choices with a whole lot of great freeway options and a lot less traffic than you will in our neighborhood. And I want to let Rosie jump in here because I know she's thinking a lot about programming inside the building and around the building as a way to both entice people to come early and to entice them to stick around after the game or the event is over.
Yeah, so we've got, I mean, working on all of those sorts of things. Like it's every arena, you want to try to stagger people out, and I think we've got some really great spaces that did not exist before. One of them being our plaza. The plaza's on the west side. That used to be the main entrance into the building. Now this is a bigger, beautiful plaza. So can we do some programming out in front of the arena that will help incentivize people to come in a little bit early and, you know, visit a food truck or visit some sort of performance, or there's some sort of activation that's out on the plaza. So that'll be helpful on a lot of different events. It could even be, can you buy your concert merch outside the arena a little bit earlier, and skip the lines that potentially will happen inside. So we're trying to think of those kinds of programming options for people to incentivize to come in, and it helps our partners at Seattle Center too. We want to make sure that that's a vibrant place. It's our home. It's where we've been for the last 50 odd years. So we want to make sure that we're driving people to the businesses and the art that's there as well. And then post events, toying around with some ideas. I know we have a couple of clubs that are in the building that maybe those turn into sort of like a nightclub or some other type of space where people can hang out a little bit longer, and experience a different side of the building, while they're waiting to get to leave.
Okay, great stuff. We've only got time for a couple of questions. It's amazing how things fly, isn't it, when you start getting really engrossed in the subject. This, again, I'll open this one up to the panel, so feel free to jump in, whoever. This is about the sourcing of food. How much does local sourcing of food and beverage help with the pledge? I don't know, Julia, maybe one for you. Does that go into the calculations when it comes to being carbon zero?
Yes, absolutely. So if food is coming from very far away, all over the world, is maybe not seasonally focused like we're doing here at the arena, then there's a lot of carbon emissions associated with the transportation of bringing that food to the arena. So it was very intentional, not just to support local economy and the great agriculture of the Northwest, but also does definitely have a direct connection and support of the carbon with the arena, having it be local within the region, and especially, as Rosemary mentioned, the food and beverage being local as well. So definitely reduced emissions from transportation, and then seasonally sourcing also probably means that there might be some practices, with the land and harvesting that could result in lower emissions associated with the agriculture itself as well.
And Rosie, what kind of a challenge is it to try and be as local and sustainable as possible when it comes to food and beverage?
I'm actually not a food and beverage expert, but we do have really great partners with Delaware North. That's going to be our concessionaire, and I know that they have been on board and understood the importance of locally sourcing our region's food resources for the arena, and they are positive about it. They're like, we can do this. We know we can make this work. And I think that that's what's really important, is having a great partner, a great food and beverage partner who understands what our mission is and will do anything to make it work. And I think the second part of your question potentially was, but at least I'll say it, is I'm just really excited for fans to come in and experience local and regional food. That's not typical arena food. It's something that you're going to be excited to come in and actually eat at the building because it's fresh and it's local. And I think it speaks to our region, but also just the importance of the diversity of food options that we have here. And I think that's what's really exciting for fans that come in.
Yeah, it tastes better too.
It tastes better, of course.
You linked me rather nicely to our finale here. We only have a minute or so to wrap up. We thank you for your contributions and for all the viewer contributions and questions as well. I would like to go around the horn, ESPN style, seeing as we have you all beautifully lined up along this screen here this evening, with what is maybe the one big takeaway for each of our panelists, the one thing you're most looking forward to seeing or implementing in Climate Pledge Arena. Jason, let's start with you on that.
Well, I'm going to go back to my roots as a Northern Canadian, and I'm hoping to see a lot of Canadians on the ice for this particular team as well, because this is my new favorite hockey team. So they're going to have to deliver here. So that's the first thing. And part of that is it's time that we really, make these subjects also very fun and appealing for people to understand that there is a better future if we do the right things, that we can have a healthier world and healthier people in it, and that we have the technologies and the know-how to make a huge difference. And we don't have to sacrifice certain things. There are things we have to change and give up, but what replaces it can be so much more meaningful and beautiful. And I think that's the Kraken that we have to release into the universe right there.
Look at the relish on your face as you say that. Julia, what about yourself?
Oh gosh, so much. There's a lot going on here that I think is really exciting that I'm looking forward to. But I'm really excited that this project was able to revitalize the historic arena, which is always really exciting projects when we can revitalize historic structures like this. And then to breathe that really great new life into it by being the most environmentally friendly and sustainable arenas, or at least one of in the country, is it's just really fantastic, as well as a huge fan of live events and huge sports fan. So the fact that this is for everybody in Seattle to go and enjoy and visit and experience in real time live is just really wonderful. Really looking forward to it.
Rosie?
Oh gosh. Well, I get to work with Jason, who inspires me. He really does. Like, you hear him speak and you're like, oh my gosh, we're not all like, we can do this. It's very inspiring. I hope I'm probably embarrassing him, but so there's that part of it. But I also, kind of what Julia said, is that I get to touch fans that are across the genres of entertainment. So we've got the Kraken hockey team, but I'm talking about, Disney on Ice and Feld and Monster Truck, or, those family shows, and having a little kid come in and actually experience, like, maybe I don't have to have this plastic water bottle. Maybe I can do something a little bit different. So being able to touch little kids with families all the way up to like a Metallica fan or Rob Zombie, if I'm probably dating myself, but those kinds of just the genre, the scope of the genres that are going to be in this building, and being able to point to all of those fans and say, this is something that we're standing for, and it's better than what's been done in the past. And I think that's what's really exciting for me.
And finally, Rob Johnson, is it getting the number 85 from Greenwood down to Climate Pledge Arena that's really going to tickle you?
Oh, Ross, it's the 5 Express, not the 85. You were so close.
I knew it.
You're so close. I'm with Rosie. I think that the thing I'm most excited about is the journey we're all going to take together. Whether that starts with the really, really great ideas that we've got here and how those ideas evolve to think about other ways that we can continue to green our operations, whether that's in the retail space with our clothing partners, whether that's continuing to innovate in the clean energy space, whether there's a huge way for us to engage with our fans. We've talked about having next summer a water tanker truck that we would drive out to regional sites and allow fans to bring the rainwater that they've collected in their own home cisterns and dump those into the tanker truck and use that as the beginning of filling up our cisterns at the beginning of a season. There's so many great ways that we've talked about engaging our fans and communicating out the inspiring messages that Jason and Julia and Rosie have educated me on a daily basis about. And we're gonna be laser focused on getting this building open and all the ideas that we've got on day one, but we're not gonna be committed to saying that we've got all of the ideas locked up and we're not gonna ever think about this again. We're going to continue to evolve. We're going to continue to innovate. We're going to hope others continue to push us. And we're hoping that folks that are engaging with us tonight will continue to bring forward really good ideas and ways that we can continue to improve, because that's how we all get inspired to take local action on this global problem.
Well, Climate Pledge Arena in itself is making waves to become the world's first net zero carbon certified arena. We are really looking forward to what is to come. The construction is moving on apace. Puck drop in 2021, the WNBA, entertainment events as well, all to come. It should be absolutely tremendous. My thanks to the panel, Rosie Selle, Jason McLennan, Julia Raish, and Rob Johnson for being with us this evening, imparting so much information with good grace and the odd dash of humour. Thank you very much indeed for joining us and adding your questions as well. We do appreciate you joining us for the Science of Sports and Entertainment on behalf of Pacific Science Centre, Seattle Kraken Hockey, Amazon, and Climate Pledge Arena. Plenty of resources out there for you to go and check out. pacsci.org to spark your imagination in science. If you want to learn more about Amazon's sustainability efforts, you can go to aboutamazon.com/sustainability. Of course, the hockey side, seattlekrakenhockey.com. There we are, we're representing. And climatepledgearena.com, another resource, as of course, all of the social channels associated with those entities. So for the panel, I'm Ross Fletcher. Thank you very much for being with us. Stay tuned for another episode of the Science of Sports and Entertainment in the near future. So have a great night, everyone. Thanks very much for joining us. Goodbye.